Okay, so I guess the owner thought I did so well on that last one I took apart and cleaned. I got 5 more of them, or 4 more of them. And so far I've found 2 that have bad heating elements. I'll show you how I know that when I get it out. Basically this video is just going to be taking one of these Challengair dog dryers apart. This is a Challengair Double K 560. And we're going to take it completely apart, clean out all the hair out of the inside of it. Part of that we'll also check and make sure that the heating element's working, listen to the motor, see what it sounds like. I did find one with a bad bearing. It still turns, and we're just going to let it die. Just keep using it until it dies, and I'm going to show you why we decided to go that route when we get there. Let's take it apart, and if you're here to watch about the heating elements, that's coming up after I get this one apart. I'll show you the difference between a good heating element and a bad heating element. So first thing I like to do with these is just make sure what's working before I start taking it apart. That way I know that when I put it back together what should be working and what shouldn't be working. So I'm going to plug it in and turn it on. Hopefully the fan noise isn't too bad out here. It's pretty hot out here. It's kind of a job that needs to be done outside. There's lots of hair and pet dander, and I don't want to do it inside, so it's hot and I got a fan going and I'm not turning it off. Turn the fan on. Okay, so on this one, low and high power work on the fan, and low and high on the heater also work. So this one's good. I didn't hear any bearing noise on this one either, so that's good. First thing I do to take these apart, this is the best way I found after doing 4 of these. We're going to take the motor out, and we're going to separate the case. And the reason you want to take the motor out is because that's the only way to really clean the squirrel cage. And you'll see why the squirrel cage will need cleaned. A little 9mm here. Take off this little cage. Take those 2 nuts off and the cage will come off, or the cage cover will come off. 4 wires to disconnect. We've got these 3 that are on just quick connectors, and then we've got a ground wire here that's on this stud. About half of these have had this little wire tie right here, and half of them have a zip tie just holding the wires together. So either way, I'm just going to take the ground off. That'll take that little piece off, as well as the ground, and then disconnect these 3 connectors. They're a little tight. Okay, and then we just got 3 screws. There's mounting screws. There's one there, there's one here, and one here. And yes, they are covered with hair. And these are in rubber grommets, so they're probably not going to come out all the way. And then the motor and the squirrel cage comes out just like that. So we're going to set that aside for right now. Okay, so before we take the case apart, what we need to do is take the heating element apart. And if you look down in there, you can sort of see the silver heating element. At the top, here and here, there is a nut, and the screw is on top of the machine. And that's the reason I took the motor out of the machine, because now you can get your hand up in there, and with an 8mm wrench, you can get on that nut and unscrew this screw at the top. Now I will say that this design you have to do this with. I did do one other that had a different grill design, and that grill actually would pop out without taking the case apart. That made it a lot easier to get to the heating element. This one, the grill is sandwiched in there. There's no way to get it out without breaking it. You might be able to get a wrench in there if you're lucky, but this is the easiest way I found on the ones that have that type of grill. This one's got so much hair up underneath there, it's actually twisted into the threads of the nut, so we'll have to just keep screwing it off with the wrench. Alright, now we got our nut off. There's our nut. It's a little locking nut as well, which doesn't help. And just need to remove that one side for right now. And then we've got 4 screws. One here on the handles, or 2 here on the handles. And then there's 2 that are down in the feet on the bottom. and you just take those out. Of course, I should say I'm not an expert on these machines by any stretch. I've just done enough of them now. I kind of got a way of working on them. This is not a sort of a job that I normally do. I was contacted by somebody, and it's kind of the reason I'm making this video. They had one where the heating element had gone out, and they asked if I would work on it, and I said sure, I'd work on it, but you know, shipping both ways and what it would cost me to work on it, it's probably a little prohibitive, but I'll do it. And I didn't hear back from them, but maybe this will help them out, and maybe it'll help somebody else out. And this is basically just a squirrel cage blower, so it might help somebody out with that as well. Now you can see the hair in here. It's all over everything. But we're not done yet. So you will get it this far. This wire is trapped up in here, so you're not going to be able to take it out. But that's okay, because you just get it filleted kind of like this, and then we can get to the rest of the pieces. So the next piece you want to take off is a little cover here, and there's 2 screws right here, and then there's another one. By the way, this just comes out now. This is your front grille. Just kind of slides out. There is another screw right down here. We'll take those 3 screws out. And then we can take the cover, lift it up on this side, pull, and kind of rotate it out, just like that. And you can see the hair in there. Probably not good for electrics. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you want to kind of identify which wires go to the heating element. We have this one here, this one, and then there's a white one that's usually tucked up underneath. I'm going to kind of pull that one out. You see that white one there. So trace those back to where they plug in and go ahead and unplug those. We got 2 black ones that go into the switch, and then the white one goes into a white quick connector. And they are often a little stiff, and they often the plastic is a little brittle sometimes, it seems, because they've gotten a little hot. And with all this hair in there, I'm not surprised they've gotten a little hot. So once you got those disconnected, we can then take the last nut and screw off the heating element, which is right there. It's just like the other one on the other side, but easier to get to now. So we can just get our wrench straight on there and unscrew it. The camera's kind of in my way. I kind of can't get enough leverage on it. For anybody who thinks it's not sometimes difficult to film these, it is. Because often the camera's in the way, you're in the way of the camera and don't realize it. Now you want to be a little careful with these things. Don't touch the actual elements. You don't want to get your finger oils on those. And I'd usually just hold them either by their mounting tabs or by these boards that they have. Okay, I've got a good heating element and a bad heating element. You can see these kind of look like a heating element and a dryer, that sort of thing, except these actually have their thermal cutoffs directly mounted onto the element. And that is this little box right here, and I believe this little canister right here. That's either another thermal cutoff or a some sort of resistor. I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to show you how to check these things and show you why this one is bad and this one is good. So you want to put your multimeter on continuity checking, make sure it's working, and then basically what you're going to do is anywhere on here that you touch, any connections, you should get continuity. Anywhere that's wired. So we'll take, and try not to touch these elements because you get your hand oils on them. We'll go between this wire and this wire, so we know there's continuity through that little element there, and we're going to go on each side of this box. We're going to do that on the back side. Go from here to here. Continuity there. Check anywhere basically you want to on the elements. Anywhere that's wired together, you can check and you should get continuity through it. That's a good one. That means it's good. Now, on the bad one, we get continuity just about everywhere. We'll check this little, what I think is a thermal cutoff, overload cutoff. It's good. On the elements, they're good. It's just about everywhere, except we come over here and we're going to check this little black box again. And it goes from here to this wire and nothing. So there is no continuity through that thermal cutoff. That thermal cutoff is bad. Don't see any way to really replace this. You'd have to source this part and, you know, take the rivets out, the grommets out, whatever. You can get this whole element though. They are available for about $30. So we'll probably do that in the future since this machine is working. Otherwise, it's just not heating. So that's how you check one of these. Of the two that I've now torn apart that aren't heating, both of them have been the elements and not the control box. There is also a control box in the machine. That is available as well. What I would do basically from process of elimination, if the heating element tested well, it's got to be the control box. The control box is available, but they're expensive, so check the heating elements first. They're a lot cheaper. Alright, let's finish cleaning and put one back together. Alright, so we know this is a good one, so I'll go ahead and put this one back in. I don't even bother, if they were bad, I didn't even bother putting them back in. I just taped off the connectors and left it as is. I marked the machine as no heat and not to be used as heat. There's no reason to put them back in. They're not going to work anyway. If you're going to replace them, then that would be the time to do it, obviously. In this case, we have, like I said, I have two that are bad. We probably will replace them in the future, but right now we're just going to get them back in service as blowers. So the next thing basically is to clean out, and I'm not going to film me doing the whole clean out of these things. I mean, you can see all the hair down in there. Basically all I'm going to do is blow it out, use a pick and pick out what doesn't blow out, get it all blown out that way. And then on the motor, I'm going to blow the motor out, and I'm going to put some 226 precision lubricant that I've had forever. I'm going to just do the bearings, I'm going to do the armature, and just as well as I can, just to give it a little bit of lube. You can probably see right now why I'm not going to do anything about doing bearings on this motor. This motor is crimped together. I have never had good luck with anything that's crimped together like this with thin sheet metal. I've never had any luck putting it back together and being very successful with it. These apparently are just a disposable item, and they are available. If you have a motor that goes out, you can get these motors. I'll put a link to the website, but be aware, I've not ordered from this website. I don't know anything about them. I'm not connected with them in any way. They just have the actual part numbers and replacement parts, some replacement parts for these. They do not have the switches, but they have the heating element, the control box, and the motors. I even think they have squirrel cages, but no switches. So if you order from them, you know, it's not on me because I never order from them and don't know anything about them, but I do know that they say that they have these parts. If you guys have had luck taking apart crimped together motors like this, let me know what your secret is, because anytime I've tried to do anything like this on I call these sealed motors basically, they never fit back together the way they're supposed to. The crimps never hold, and they don't last that long. Let's take this squirrel cage off. It's really simple. Lay it over on its side, and if you rotate it around and look down between the fins, you might just see a set screw in there, and I believe it is a 1/8 Allen wrench. And just go down in there Get it in the set screw. These are going to be tight. Usually take something to knock it loose with. Get it loose. You don't have to take it out all the way. The motor should just pull out, or the motor and the squirrel cage should just separate. Now when you put it back together, you will have a little witness mark there where that set screw was, so that makes it easier to put back together in the right position, because you can put it in any position here on this shaft. So you can see here this motor is completely crimped together. You would have to cut these actually look like little spot welds. This side has clips. Yeah, I'm not taking this motor apart and thinking that I'm going to put this thing back together. Not for a customer, especially. Maybe I might try it for myself. This one actually sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty smooth. So all I'm going to do is blow it out. I'm going to run a little bit of that CRC 226 stuff down in here, down in between the armature and on this back bearing, although I don't even know if that'll go through, but just in case. And you know, it can't hurt. For the squirrel cage, the best way I found to clean these is to take just a pick like this, or just a flat bladed screwdriver, and go between each one and start pulling out the hair, because it gets trapped in the little veins. So we'll go all the way around doing that, dump it out, and then do the other side same way. And that will get 95% of it out after you blow it. So we got it all cleaned out, and to put it back together, we're just going to reverse the same process we did taking it apart. So we get our heating element screwed on here, get our wires. You'll notice I put a little yellow electrical tape on this wire. The plastic was getting a little brittle. And then kind of tuck this back in the way it came. And you notice there's like a little groove right here. If you see that, there is a little space right here for these wires to go down into. We'll connect our other two. Doesn't matter the direction here of where these came off. Either ways, you can put them in the way they came off, and you can put them in the opposite. Doesn't matter. Get our little cover. And you just kind of got to slide it up and rotate it. Rotate it till it's back in its position. Put the 3 screws in. Now if you didn't notice when you were taking them out, there is a pointed screw and 2 not pointed screws. The pointed screw apparently goes in here, although I'm really not sure the difference. You never get every strand of hair out, but we got most of it. Okay, once we get that panel in, we can just put this back together. And don't forget to put your grill in. Like so. And then again, you got to reach in, hold that nut on the tab, and put this thing back on. And this will test your patience doing this. If you can just get it on there and get it held and get it started. And by the way, I did want to go ahead and put 1 screw in just to kind of hold the case together. And actually, we can go ahead and put those screws in. It doesn't matter that order. It doesn't really matter. Now you'll want to make sure you pull your wire out, because when we split the cases, it would have pulled itself in a little bit. So pull your wire out like that, and we'll put the motor back together and put it in. Remember, we got a little mark on the shaft, so we can line the squirrel cage back up. The little set screw goes to the side of the motor. I'm just going to get it close there. You have plenty of room in there, so you just need to get it close to where it was. You want to make sure that the ground lug is in the bottom position. Hold your wires up like that, out of the way. Get this little tab thing out of the way. There's actually a little cutout in the thing right here so that they can stay out of the way. Slide down in, and remember your lug goes on this side on the bottom. This is the bottom. Connect your wires back together. They only go one way because they're all colored. You got black, red, white, and the green is the ground that goes on the ground post. Tab situated here, and the tab goes on first, like so, and then the ground wire. Now there's a reason for this. If you put the ground wire under this tab, it will be on the painted surface of the motor and may not generate a good ground. If you put it here, you have the contact between the post and the nut, which are contacting the ground wire. That gives you a good ground. Just going to make sure all our wires are out of the way of the squirrel cage, give it a turn, make sure it's not rubbing anything. Put our 3 screws in for the motor. Getting hot out here, guys. Going fast. Like I said, this is basically just the reverse of the way it came apart. Just going to tighten those down. They don't have to be super tight. This motor is rubber mounted in there, so just need to snug them down. Now we got our 3 body screws. I've already put one in, or our 4 body screws. I've already put one in. The 2 here, the 2 down in the legs, which are sometimes fun to get in there if you let them drop out. Careful with those because I have misplaced one already. Still looking for it. It'll turn up. In the meantime, I've got a replacement to put in there. So put those screws back in and you're done. Of course, you probably want to wipe the outside of them off too, which I will do. Anyway, I hope this is going to be helpful to somebody. It's not, I'm sure it's not going to get a ton of views, but there's enough of these sold out there, and I'm sure that most of them are in this condition. This is my last one. I've done 5 of these now, and hopefully I won't have to do them again for a while. It's not a bad job. It's just, you know, it's irritating because you got to do it outside where it's hot and hair all over the place. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and if you've watched this far, you're a dedicated viewer. Let me know what you think about the new camera. I did have to get a new camera. You're going to find out why in an upcoming video. I have footage of the incident with my previous camera. This is a Lumix, and I'm pretty happy with it so far. It will do 4K. I'm not doing 4K on this video just because it's not really necessary. Yeah, this one's a pain. I'm going to be digging on this one for a minute. So let me know what you think about the new camera. I'm pretty happy with it so far. I've never had Panasonic. I've always had Canons or GoPros, and I've heard really good things about the Lumix, and the lens on here seems to be excellent, and so far I'm very pleased with the footage. It's leaps and bounds above the camcorder that I was using. Anyway, I've rambled on enough. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.